Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. 5.6 millimeters. That's thinner than a pencil, thinner than two quarters stacked together, and now, incredibly, that's how thin the new iPhone is. Today, we're diving deep into Apple's most radical iPhone design ever, the iPhone Air. We'll explore how they pulled off this engineering feat, what compromises were made, and whether this ultra-slim device is actually practical for daily use.
You know what's fascinating about this? It's not just thin for the sake of being thin. Apple's actually reimagined the entire internal layout of the phone.
Tell me more about that. What exactly did they change inside?
Well, according to the teardowns, they've done something really clever. Instead of stacking components on top of each other like in traditional phones, they moved the logic board up into what they call the camera plateau, that raised section around the camera.
Oh, that's interesting. So the camera bump isn't just for the camera anymore?
Exactly. The middle of the phone is basically just a battery with a frame around it. And get this, they're using titanium for the frame, which helps keep it rigid despite being so thin.
But wait, doesn't being this thin affect the battery life? I mean, there can't be much room for a decent-sized battery in there.
That's what everyone assumed, but the results are actually surprising. In standardized tests, the iPhone Air lasted 12 hours and 2 minutes of continuous web browsing over 5 grams.
How does that compare to other phones?
It's pretty competitive. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge, which is also ultra-thin at 5.8 millimeters, managed 11 hours and 48 minutes in the same test. The regular iPhone 17 got 12 hours and 47 minutes.
You know what's really wild? I heard they're using the exact same battery as their MagSafe battery pack.
Yeah, that's one of those fascinating engineering decisions. The battery is actually interchangeable between the phone and the battery pack, though it's not exactly something you'd want to do regularly.
Let's talk about durability. I mean, everyone remembers Bendgate. Are we looking at another potential scandal here?
You know, it's funny you mention that. Back when phones started getting thinner, durability was always the big concern. But Apple's done something really interesting with the structural design.
What did they do differently?
According to durability tests, the iPhone Air can withstand 130 pounds of force without bending. The titanium frame and the way they've distributed components actually helps prevent flex points.
That's impressive. But they had to make some compromises, right?
Yeah, the most noticeable one is the camera system. They've gone with a single 48-megapixel main camera instead of the multiple cameras we're used to seeing.
And I noticed they removed one of the speakers, too.
Right, they had to sacrifice the bottom speaker to achieve this thickness. But they've compensated with some clever audio engineering in the remaining speaker.
What about the display? Did they have to compromise there?
Actually, the display is one area where they didn't cut corners. It's a 6.5-inch OLED with ProMotion 120 ARPS refresh rate and can hit 3,000 nits of peak brightness outdoors.
That's brighter than my future.
Ha! And it's protected by their new Ceramic Shield 2 glass, which they claim is more scratch and crack resistant than previous generations.
Let's talk about repairability. Usually, thinner devices are harder to repair, right?
That's what makes this phone so interesting. According to iFixit's teardown, the iPhone Air actually scored a 7 out of 10 for repairability, the same as the regular iPhone models.
Wait, how is that possible?
It's because of that flat component layout we mentioned earlier. When parts are side by side instead of stacked, they're actually easier to access and replace.
So, being thin actually helped with repairability? That's counterintuitive.
Exactly. And they've used some innovative techniques like electrically debonding adhesive strips for the battery that can be removed by applying 12 volts for about 70 seconds.
That's pretty cool. What about performance? With such a thin design, did they have to compromise on processing power?
Not at all. It's running the same A19 Pro chip as the other models. In Geekbench tests, it actually scored 9,746 points in multi-core performance.
How does that compare to other phones?
That's significantly higher than the iPhone 15 Pro, which scored 7,230. So we're seeing a real generational leap in performance.
Let's talk about price. Where does the Air fit in Apple's lineup?
The iPhone Air starts at $999, positioning it between the regular iPhone 17 at $799 and the Pro models, which start at $1,099.
That's not cheap.
No, but it's interesting that they're positioning it as a premium device rather than a budget option. They're clearly targeting users who value design and portability.
Speaking of design, what colors are available?
They're offering it in space black, cloud white, light gold, and sky blue, all with that titanium finish that's become Apple's new premium material.
You mentioned titanium. Isn't that the same material they're using in the Pro models?
Yes, and they're actually using 3D printing for some of the titanium components, like the USB-C port housing. It reduces material usage by 33% compared to traditional manufacturing.
That's pretty innovative. Are there any other manufacturing techniques they're using that are worth noting?
The whole phone is really a showcase of advanced manufacturing. They're using the same 3D printing techniques they developed for the Apple Watch Ultra 3.
It seems like Apple's really pushing the boundaries with this one.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they're not just doing it for show. Each design decision seems to have a practical purpose, even if it meant making some tough choices like removing that second speaker.
Let's talk about those tough choices. What's the biggest compromise in your opinion?
I'd say it's the camera system. Going from 3 cameras to 1 is a significant step back in versatility, even if that single camera is very capable.
But it still takes good photos, right?
The 14.8 megapixel main camera is actually quite impressive, and it can still do 2x zoom through sensor cropping, but you lose the ultra-wide capabilities and some of the more advanced features like cinematic mode.
So who is this phone really for?
It's for someone who values design and portability above all else. Someone who wants a premium iPhone experience but doesn't need pro-level camera features.
Would you say it's worth the $1,000 price tag?
That really depends on what you value. If you're someone who appreciates innovative design and wants the thinnest possible phone without major compromises in performance or battery life, then yes.
But if you're a power user who needs all the bells and whistles,
Then you're probably better off with the Pro models. The Air is more about making a statement with its design while maintaining solid everyday performance.
it's interesting how Apple's managed to create such distinct personalities for each iPhone model.
Yeah, and the Air really fills a unique spot. It's not trying to be the most powerful or the most feature-packed. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in phone design.
Do you think this ultra-thin design is the future of smartphones?
I think it's more about showing what's possible. The techniques they developed for the Air will probably influence future phones, but not everyone wants or needs a phone this thin.
Kind of like how the MacBook Air influenced laptop design?
Exactly. It's about pushing the boundaries and then letting those innovations trickle down to other products over time.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our discussion of the iPhone Air.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating device that shows Apple can still innovate in unexpected ways.
Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts. Remember, sometimes the biggest innovations come in the thinnest packages. Until next time.